Good evening, and welcome to the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host, Lockefox, and we have a lot of news and market stuff to cover for this week. So why don't we start where we always start, in the show news. From the top, make sure that you guys are following us. The best place to get in touch with me outside of the show is through the Tweetfleet Slack servers. Just check out the channel info below, and you can get signed up and join the Prosper channel and chat with me off air. That's where we're doing all of the outreach. Also, thanks to all of our followers. We just crossed 800 subscribers on YouTube and 100 on the new Twitch channel. If you're not subscribed on either, make sure to update your stuff. All you have to remember is Eve Prosper. That'll get you to the YouTube, the Twitch, the Twitter, website, and the newly launched Patreon. If you guys don't know what Patreon is, it's a subscription service that allows you to contribute monthly to shows you like. It's just there as a tip jar. We won't be gating any content, but if we can hit certain levels, we will be producing extra content. So feel free to throw a few bucks in there if you guys want to buy us a beer. It's super appreciated. We hit $50 contributed this month, and I'm just astounded. So I want to thank the patrons Benji, Namakner, Zenshift, Lixes, Antillian, Bensel, Gabriel Hahn, and Bob Lynn. Your guys' support is outstanding. I should have some news in the upcoming week about the promises for extra content, because I really was underprepared because I didn't think you guys would contribute this much. Thanks again. It's a huge honor for you guys to help us. Also, last thing before we get into the real news, remember that we are posting these shows as an audio-only podcast as well. You can find subscription information on the blog at eveprosper.com. We still have in the pipeline a CCP Quant interview, and we released a Dr. EO interview a few weeks ago, and should have the Quant one out this weekend. I just need to get the bumpers attached on. I just haven't had any time to do the editing. That's where we are for that. With that, let's move on to the news. In the news, we didn't have much game development news, but thanks to this going out on Friday, because I tried to delete the entire show by accident, we were able to watch the latest scope, which I freaking love these things. They are pretty, they are succinct, they are well animated. The team that's producing these really needs an extra round of kudos, because they just look so good. I wish I could get a commercial in this quality for the show that would be in a similar vein. So I will give you Plex if you can make me a 30-second spot for Prosper. I would be so happy. Speaking of the scope report, the big news is a couple of wars. Hero has lost to PL in Catch and has spent the last week evacing out of Catch. You may have seen some impacts in the Amar market as everybody is fire sailing. I didn't have a chance to walk through all of the data yet, but I will be touching base with Bach Collective from Brave to see if we can get a small report out. Also, this was my favorite piece out of Reddit this week, is that Brave not only lost and had to evac, but if you've been on the Eve Reddit, it has been 9 threads out of 10 have been about spies and coups and the collapse of Brave leadership, which I really hate to see, because I really like what Brave does. I'm always heartbroken when that upstart coalition gets raffle stomped. I hated it when it happened to Test. I'm hating it now when it's happening to Brave, but that's the way the world turns. Also, in fight news, it seems that N3 and CFC are locking horns down in the south. NC has been pushing on Fountain, and CFC is responding, as they call it, with a no-fun doctrine, just absolutely face-kicking and being as big of jerks as possible to try and just beat the fight out of N3. Also, according to the scope report, they may be bringing PL in as honorable third parties. So we'll see where that goes. I'm hoping that it drives more conflict, but so far I haven't seen a whole lot shaking out on the market. With that, let's go ahead and move on into Plex like we usually do. Not a lot to report on Plex, and as I've said before, and I'll say again, that Plex is going to be boring until June. Sorry, guys. We keep seeing this weekend cycle of it's hot during the weekend and cold during the week. We were up towards 805, but we should be slumping back down to 795 over the course of the week and then popping back up to 805. I expect to be in this 790 to 810 band until June, and we'll have to see where Fozzie Sod lands. I wish there was more to say, but really everything's staying extremely stable. Volumes are stable, even if they're a little bit low. Prices are stable. There's just nothing to consume all that Plex. So that's where we are with Plex. Moving on, let's talk about minerals. Minerals were really weird this week. I had been saying that Tritanium should stay stable between 6.0 and 6.1. I even expected it to keep tracking up, and it took a nosedive this week. It's all the way down to 5.5. We're bordering on the... Dirk McGurk always yells at me because I say the wrong one. We're bordering on oversold, and... It is a huge drop. I don't know what's exactly driving it. With the increase with the high end increase, with the double whammy on high ends where supply will be lowered and demand will be lifted, we may be seeing a spot where high-sec miners are turning away from the low end ores to go out and prospect the high ends that are so high right now. Also, we look at pyrite. We were seeing it relatively stable last week, and then it dropped. It dropped pretty significantly again, skirting that bottom RSI line, and it looks like it's reasonably stable. I don't expect it to fall much further, but this is definitely not expected. I did not expect low ends. I expected low ends to stay flat. Moving on to Mexilon, again, we're seeing a huge drop. We go from 59 to 56 over the course of a couple of days. The fact that all the discontinuities line up has me thinking that there is something else going on. There was a forum post I haven't seen yet that they're expecting more low ends in null, and that's going to amp supply. Like, this seems to be coming out of nowhere at the moment, and the only thing that really makes any sense is that people are dropping are running out to the wildlands to try and get as much of the high ends as they can while the prices are high. Isogen also saw a big dip. Dirk McGurk and Etienne are making some interesting points in the chat that this might actually have to do with the end of the violence between PL and Brave might be slumping a lot of demand that was keeping the price high, and by extension, they stop fighting, they stop destroying, then we'll see the prices drop. Noxium again took a big hit on the mouth. We've gone from 680 to 640 basically overnight. I don't expect any of these to fall any further without any extra news, but it's still very strange to see this stark reversal of the trend. And then on to high ends, everyone's favorite ones to talk about. Zydrene continues to climb. I have a feeling that the climbing's basically over. I said this last week that to get out at 1200, but it continues to climb. We'll have another snapshot that's a little more current in just a couple of slides. We should be seeing things stabilize. The first order time series stuff should have completed by now, and we should be locking in between 1300 and 1500 per unit. Moving on to Megasite. Again, this is the one that's driving my prediction is that we're basically locking in at the 2,000 level. If you manage to get in on the mega site speculation, now is a perfectly good time to sell. I said sell last week. I'm saying sell now. Make hay while the sun shines. I don't expect the prices to go any higher, or if they do, marginally higher. But one whisper from Fozzie could turn this all around and you could lose all of the progress we've made. So this is definitely a go out, sell what you have, and count your money and call it a victory. Don't get greedy. Moving on to Morphite, we've been seeing a couple of spikes in volume that are making me have me a little interested, but without being able to sustain that level, we should remain relatively stable. I don't think Morphite or any of the other T2 stuff is really going to move, but we'll talk about that in a few more slides. And then just to wrap it up, let's bring up the buy and sell margins for the last month in JITA. These are just useful to look at as sort of a way to see where the market is moving. The white line in the middle is FanFest, and we can see that Megasite is still climbing, Zydrene is still weekly climbing. Again, they could go up slightly. Megasite looks like it could be trending to 2,500, but again, if the scratch work I've done is right, then we should be seeing a 20% increase in the price of Tech 1 moving forward. That, like, anything that is relatively decent margin T1, and I know that that's a bit of an oxymoron, should be going up in cost by 20%, basically across the board. And I'm not seeing those signals in T1 items. And that makes me think that either people aren't updating their tools to go look, and I'm the only one, which, again, I don't think I'm that smart, or my numbers are bad. It still makes me think that Fozzie's going to come in, tweak things, and we're going to see the prices fall, that we're going to see 5%, we're going to see it walk back 5% or 10% from its high. So get sold while the getting's good. Count your money. Tell your story like you sold it at the top. Get out now is the advice. Moving on to fuel. The fuel markets were pretty quiet this week. Again, we keep seeing that Minmatar and Amar fuels are bouncing back and forth as the worst fuel to mine, but they've stabilized around 650 a unit, which seems like a reasonably fair wage. We're seeing a little bit of weakness in the nitrogen isotope market. This is probably due again to lowered need for production. Hopefully a decent Sov war starts pulling that back up again, but I don't see it going much north of 800. And fuel blocks follow isotopes. We'll talk about a couple of the subcomponents of fuel blocks later, but prices are tracking slightly down. Minmatar fuel blocks are slightly up for the week, but I expect that to come right back down. So if you have some Minmatar fuel blocks, I'd sell them off. Things are, and it looks a little bit weak in the Galente fuel block market, so I expect that to pop back up over the weekend. Moving on to outlier analysis. Let's start with moon components, because that's where I like to start. We saw that crystalline carbonide took a huge dip last week, mostly on the back of Ishtar's getting finally actually nerfed. But it has since rebounded and overcorrected, so if you did buy in, this would be a great time to sell, because I expect it to come right back down to 165 or 164-ish in the next few days. I think it's artificially high and we're gonna overcorrect back down again. Also, metamaterials have been a little bit interesting. We've been seeing these stay very stable over the last week. Over the last month or so. And non-linear metamaterials, that's the ones that go into Minmatar... these are the ones that go into Amar products. and photonic metamaterials, which go into Galente products, both took some pretty sharp turns up. Now, we'll have to wait a week to see if they actually sustain. I'm hoping that they stay at their new levels. I don't think they're going to climb much higher, but hopefully this is a leading indicator that Mortec 2 is getting consumed. If Mortec 2 is getting consumed, all of the boats around Moon products should start to rise, because we should be in a cycle of undersupplied at the moment. So if the CFC NCPL war actually gets any teeth on it, if it really gets any momentum, we should start to see these products climb pretty unstably while the engines of Moon reactions are offline. Also, Technetium was a little interesting. We saw a big dip that looks like a market error, but I only brought this up because we go look at Thulium and we see a similar sell-off kind of behavior. Not sure if these are really going to stay. Again, they've been extremely stable for the last 10 weeks. So I expect them to rebound, but we'll see what happens over the upcoming week. Moving on, I wanted to touch on PI products, high-end PI products, and I probably picked the wrong graph to do this. Fozzie had announced in both the '07 show and his Sov 5.0 talk at FanFest that players were going to get to assemble the Sov upgrades. And this was a counterpoint to try and recover the fact that without sovereignty blockade units being built and used, that we needed something else to consume the high-end PI. And I had expected that this would be a great place to start speculating, that you could then hold on to all this and look like a freaking genius. Afterwards, it seemed like one of those kind of cool second-order things that I have personally made a bunch of money on in the past, but none of the economy agrees with me, and we've been seeing the prices slowly slide. Now, this slide I don't think has to do with the actual consumption rate. I think it has to do with the cost of subcomponents. All of PI is sliding down, and we can go look at robotics have been losing steam. Coolant here has finally hit rock bottom. This one has been one that's been in free fall for the last few weeks, going from 9,500 to 7,500 in the course of like 3 weeks. All of PI has been extremely weak, and now I don't know if that's because there's just not enough to keep the systems running. I don't know if that's oversupply. I don't know if that's finally somebody heard my plea about trial accounts can do PI. I'm not particularly sure. Moving on out of PI, looking at data core, hydromagnetic physics data cores were interesting. They flagged that they are going down. This looks like it might be a Caldari faction warfare cash out. The prices were reasonably high, and the prices are trending down. If it is a faction warfare cash out, expect the prices to continue to fall to about 85,000. If they get that low, go ahead and buy them up. You can buy them up in the thousands and hold on to them. They should rebound back up to 100K, and you can make a decent amount of money. It's a little bit weird. I didn't see a whole bunch of other signals really showing a faction warfare payout, so I didn't see many of the common modules flag. I can go back through and double check, but it looks like there might be somebody cashing out big time. Things are trending down. I expect them to keep falling. Moving on to the T3 component, the T3 manufacturing market has gone batshit. over the last week. So it was announced on the '07 show that Fozzie wanted to bring the price of Tech 3 destroyers up to about 50 million. And oh man, the prices for subcomponents have just gone insane. We're looking at electromechanical hull sheeting here, and it has quadrupled in price. If we go look at modified fluid routers, they were already on an upward tick thanks to the Confessor and the Svipple, but they have gone ahead and doubled in the course of 2 weeks. If we go look at God damn it. If we go look at fluoroferrocene, that's what I'm gonna say it is. We've seen almost a doubling, but it's since backed off. But we've seen a lot of volume, so it looks like somebody has been hoarding a lot of the materials. We're also seeing most of the T3s tracking up, but due to the fact they're still so young, they're kind of hard to plot on here, so I've been omitting those graphs. Moving on to ships, let's go out of T3 and move into the Talos. The Talos has been tracking up. We can see a huge volume spike. Looks like 200 were bought in a day, and that's been driving the prices up. I think this might be a precursor to Burn Jita. The Talos and the... Oh, damn, I can't remember the Minmatar one. Anyway, Tier 3 destroyers, the attack battlecruisers, Attack battlecruisers are a popular freighter killer, and we've been seeing this spike. We saw a spike a few weeks ago. If you go tune back into, I want to say episode 19, I think we might be seeing the precursor to Burn Jita. Traditionally, Burn Jita is on the week of April 20th. They've been making the event bigger and bigger every year. Expect not just Jita to be locked out, but the surrounding systems, so Perimeter would be a big one. Uedama and Niarja should both be pretty hell-camped, and I wouldn't be surprised if they also focused on Amar. It would be interesting to see if they tried to burn Amar. We'll see where things go. I have not heard a whisper on the wind yet that they're actually happening, but seeing a few little spurious indicators here and there that might be signaling it. It also could be just people buying out a bunch for a doctrine, so it's 50-50 here. Moving on, the Noctis was extremely popular this last week. We saw a general uptick in demanded volume and a quick price spike. This might have been speculative. And it looks like right now we're in overcorrection. So this would be a good one to double check to see if the price is still around 75 million. It could overcorrect again, so this is a decent spot to do a little more investigation. It might be worth buying. Moving on, the Paladin. So I've brought this up on a few shows, but things like Marauders, things like Black Ops, and Hictors all have this extremely unstable production environment. What ends up happening is that the production margin starts to get good, so we see it climb up near 1 billion, and then a bunch of producers all jump on it, overproducing, and we see the price fall like a stone, and then it takes forever to come back. By the time the price comes back, everyone's kind of written it off and gone, never again, but then a new round of people goes, oh man, look at how good those Paladins are, and we see the oversupply happen again. So it looks like we went into a bit of oversupply. It might still be worth buying in at 950 and shooting for 1 billion, but you might be holding on to it for over a month, so keep that in mind if you're going to go jump on this. Another interesting ship that's been climbing rather sharply over the last week has been the Vindicator. Part of it, I believe, might have to do with some of the mineral changes. I know that that's not a big price point on it, but the volumes aren't that high. They're a little bit higher than usual. But the prices just keep climbing. So if you can get Vindicator BPCs, or if you have an old Vindicator that's collecting dust, this would be a decent time to buy. Double check the price on Vindicator BPCs, and this would be a great time to produce those if you've got them handy. Last on our ships, I believe this is last on the ships. I've been trying to track the skinned ships in their own thing, but every once in a while they come up and I just have to talk about them. So we're looking at the Interbus Catalyst. The deal is, if you didn't watch the 07 show or FanFest, is that if you own one of these ships, if it's in your hangar when the change goes live for the new skin system, you get that skin in your little character repository. And so you only need to own one. It gets automatically converted when the thing goes when the feature goes live. And so we've been seeing a lot of instability in the skin ship markets, but the volumes are so low that they're kind of hard to predict. Now, I believe I did say during FanFest this was a decent thing to buy in on, thinking that you'd then be able to sell to everyone, but keep in mind before you go completely nuts and spend a lot more money than you should, that the market I expect to come down rather sharply depending on when the skins thing actually is slated to release. Everybody only needs one, and if you're stuck holding like 100 of these things when the change hits, they're all going to get down converted to like catalysts, right? So I'd be extremely careful. I think that there's a good chance that there might be a fire sale right the day before stuff happens. It could definitely go either way, but I think the prices are artificially high. You shouldn't pay as much as they are. Try to see if they come down, but I could be very wrong. So please don't make an angry mob when I call this one wrong. Moving on to modules, I thought this one was rather interesting. The 1600mm reinforced steel plates took a pretty sharp turn up last week, but have since fallen back down to their previous level. It was just weird to see it climb as high as it did. Demand seems to be pretty healthy for these, especially with the rebalancing of armor plates coming up. These might actually start to look a little bit better compared to their meta companions, so just keep an eye on these. They might slide back up again. It's worth keeping on your radar if you're a producer. And then we're going to end the section in the Genelution core augmentation implants. I mentioned last week that they had been trending down, and then this week they really took a dive down. So I think this has to do with a starter pack sale around FanFest. A lot of these things came back into the market. If you are in need of these newbie implants, this would be a great opportunity to buy them. If you are in a long-term speculative mode, then these might be worth holding on to, but expect to hold them for like 6 months before they grow in value again. And then looking at the Genelution CA2, we see a similar dump down in price. Again, these are great implants for newbie characters. If you're rolling a new character, this is a great utility to have, and they're really not that expensive right now. Moving on to the last section of the show, let's talk about some of our predictions. I had mentioned last week, I believe, the Electron Blaster Cannon 2s had been trending up pretty high, and we saw the prices fall right the heck out. Looks like somebody sold in sold a whole bunch from production and crashed the market. I think we're overcorrected at the moment, but I think that we're only going to see like maybe a 2% rise. So if you're in sort of a speculative mode, I think this one's a decent one to buy this week. It should trend slightly up, but I wouldn't expect to make a ton of money. So just keep a pin in it. Moving on, these ones, I still don't know what to do about them. The Energy, NOS, and Newts were scheduled for rebalance, and they have gone completely insane. And they're really hard to talk about intelligibly during these flops back and forth. I expect the prices to come back down to where they were because I don't think the drop tables are really changing that much. Just the usage is going to change. If you manage to get in, I would be selling. But that's because I'm a bit conservative when it comes to these kind of bets. And with that, we come to the end of this show. I want to thank everyone who tuned in live. Especially since we're doing this a day late because I tried to delete all the archives because I am bad. If you want to follow the show, all you have to remember is Eve Prosper. That'll get you to our Twitch, our Twitter, our YouTube, and our website. We broadcast every Friday night at 0200 game time. That's Thursday night for all of you US people, and you can follow the show on YouTube at youtube.com/Eve Prosper if you can't catch it live. If you want to interact with us on the show, feel free to stop by the Tweetfleet Slack server. Information is in the channel info below. That's the very best place to get in touch with me. Also, if you want to support the show in more than just likes and favorites and subscribes, which, again, we love likes and favorites and subscribes, stop by our Patreon at patreon.com/Eve Prosper. That's a place where you can throw in a few bucks into a tip jar, buy us a beer effectively. The more we can raise there, the more content we will put out for you guys. So we all appreciate it. Prosper is not just me, Lockefox, but it's a small team of ATN, Urkeline, and Random Boy 50, and we really appreciate the help. So with that, I'm going to end the show. I have been your host, Lockefox. This has been the Eve Prosper Market Show, and I will see all of you next week.